I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Petrie.
Here.
Fullweiler. LeMay.
Here.
Andrews.
Here.
Greco.
Here.
Meyer.
Here.
Back here. Palumbo.
I am here.
Okay, I would ask for a motion to accept the minutes from our, okay, that was the October 15th meeting. Motion by Mr. LeMay, second by Ms. Petrie. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Before we adjourn, I'd like to tell the applicant and or their representative that we only have 3 members this evening, and so our vote has to be unanimous. A 2-to-1 vote obviously is a denial. Would you like to go ahead with it, or would you rather wait till we have a 5-member board?
We need to go ahead
Okay,
based on timing for the project.
okay, thank you. All right, I'd like to ask you please to step forward. First item on the agenda is 5845 Main Street, and there seems to be a discrepancy here, and Mr. Cuomo can clarify this. In your letter, Mr. Sutton, actually the letter that came to us, there was a mention of 2 variances. We have listed before us 4 variances.
There are in fact 4 variances will be presented.
Okay. So that's clarified. The first variance is for the minimum number of usable stories, less than 2. The second variance is for the height of less than 15 feet for the addition. The next one is for transparency of the building wall less than 70%. And the fourth is for maximum front setback of 20 feet to Main Street is exceeded. Okay, before you begin your presentation, obviously please speak into the microphone. We're being recorded. I will ask anyone in the audience if they'd like to speak in favor or against. Please address the 5 points I have before you. And there is a minor housekeeping thing about the the village paper, which is the Amherst B. For this, you can waive this reading of this.
I'm willing to wait.
Okay, thank you. Please begin your presentation. Thank you.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Dave Sutton from Sutton Architects here this evening to apply for 4 variances for a proposed addition to an existing building at 5845 Main Street. A little bit of history on the building. Those of you that have been around long enough know that it was originally built as a Friendly's and has gone through a couple of different changes of occupancy. Vito's Deli was there for a while, and its last, most recent tenant was Buffalo Dental Group. My client has the building under contract and wishes to purchase the building and move his business, which is a medical business, cosmetic paintings, into the building. And in order to do so, we are proposing approximately a 2,000 square foot addition along the west side of the existing building. The area of which the addition is being proposed is grass area right now. The existing parking lot is to remain intact and existing, with the exception of some possible changes that the planning board might recommend based on a sketch plan review we did with them. But for the most part, the existing building is going to stay exactly the way it is. The parking lot is going to stay exactly the way it is. The curb cuts, everything that relates to this property, with the exception of the 2,000 square foot addition and a facelift and a total rehab on the inside of the building. So that being said, as we went through with the planning department, primarily Gary, we were, I brought to our attention that 4 variances were required. One of the main reasons that these variances are required is because the zoning code is primarily established and put together in such a way that is addressing new build construction. Existing buildings that have additions to them are included in all of those criteria, sometimes inappropriate in some of those classifications. For example, the 4 variances here in front of you today. I'll take each one of them and talk about each one independently, but I will kind of lump them together because there's a lot of overlap between them. The fact of the matter of a 2-story requirement. The existing building is primarily 1 story with a pitched roof. Very difficult to put a 2-story addition on the west side of this property effectively and not only make it look architecturally correct, compatible, respectful to the existing building, but also based on the fact that this building is medical and a handicap accessibility requirement, it would become a huge economic burden in order to put a 2-story addition on top of this 1-story building or adjacent to this 1-story building in terms of staffing, in terms of seeing patients and clients, in terms of economic feasibility for the actual construction. And then the second item is the building height is not supposed to be less than 15 feet in the 1st story. The challenge of that is we have an existing building that has an established existing height of approximately 10 feet. If we were going to take the addition and put it 15 feet, we would start to compete with the existing structure. We're trying to complement our addition with the existing structure, not compete with it. And you'll see through some visual representation that it is much more appropriate for us to maintain the E lines and keep that addition in check with existing as opposed to strict adherence to the 15-foot requirement of the code that regulates building height or 1st floor height. Next thing is transparency. The existing building going down the side street, Full Place, is got a series of punched windows. It's a primarily painted brick building, series of punched windows. We're actually continuing the exact same style of architecture in the addition. The amount of windows, the location of the windows are repetitive to exactly what is there now. The other reason for not complying to the transparency is the nature of the building. If we had 70% transparency to a medical building, it would cause compromises in privacy and HIPAA requirements of screening. So those windows and glass would pretty much be screened or obscured or shaded at all times anyways. So the other thing that I want to point out is transparency. The primary intent of transparency is to bring life to Main Street and allow for the exterior or the pedestrian-friendly atmosphere on Main Street and the building to actually project out onto Main Street. This type of business is not necessarily one that we would like to expose to project onto Main Street. So therefore, we are proposing just under 20% of transparency along the Full Place. And then the existing building has its established transparency on the Main Street, and our addition is going to complement that, and I can show you some renderings on how that occurs. The 4th item is setback from Main Street. So the existing building is currently more than 20 feet from Main Street. And it's important to note too, the code says that they want the buildings to go right up to Main Street. That's 0 to 10 feet. They do give an allotment to be 20 feet away from Main Street, producing an area of, I think it's a neighborhood complement area or recreation area.
Public amenities.
Public amenity. The existing front yard is there. We don't want the addition to go beyond the existing building. Once again, we're trying to complement the building and not compete with the building. We feel as we would change the whole character of the existing building and really overshadow it if we were going to have a building that was brought right up to Main Street, and it would create a very awkward juxtaposition to the existing building. We are producing and introducing a vestibule at the existing building as an amenity for an entrance, and that will be within the 20 feet. So we do suggest some compliance. We're more than willing to put some features into the front yard to make it a public amenity or recreation area, such as a bench or bike racks or other amenities that we might get some input from the planning board for their suggestion for that. So we feel as if we meet or comply to the code because the overall building does strike within that 20-foot setback, but the literal interpretation of the code based on the planning department suggested that the addition is actually evaluated separately from the existing building and the vestibule addition. Therefore, we are not in compliance with that setback. So once again, those are the 5 items. I do have some graphics here that I can refer to. I do have, and I think this is all in the application. Since we talked about the addition in terms of 2-story versus 1-story, you can see based on the elevations, and we're trying to establish that existing gutter line, and the addition actually projects out and is in line with that. That's why we're ending up with the 10 feet. We're proposing 1-story. We did pursue initially strict compliance to the code of a 2-story building. And as you can see, the building totally transforms itself and not architecturally appealing. Programming doesn't work. And you can see that would be the full place elevation.
Does that meet the transparency on that side?
It does not. It would not meet the transparency. The transparency would only be on the first floor, not on the upper floors. So we're, once again, we're here today because this is a method of compliance to get our building that may be outside of the strict compliance of the code, but we feel is very appropriate. We know this is an avenue to get a project possibly approved or directed to the planning board for further approval. And we know that this board is obligated to use the 5 criteria for the balancing test. Item number 1 is, does it create an undesirable change to the neighborhood and its surroundings? My argument would be if we did a 2-story building, or if we elevated the building up, or we took the addition in front of the existing building, these would all be actually negative to the neighborhood and the surrounding environment. The strict compliance of this code is challenged, we feel, as if we're putting something together that is very compatible with the site, very compatible with the building, and therefore a better end result. So we think it will be a complement if this variance is approved this evening rather than a detriment. Feasible alternatives, we spent the last 6 months pursuing a bunch of different feasible alternatives for this. We are not in a position to provide any feasible alternatives for the requirements of these variances that would not only meet the program, meet the intent of the code, have respect to the existing building, and make it a feasible project for my client. Number 3 is, are these variances substantial? One might think from going from 1-story to 2-story is a substantial variance, but the suggestion is the current building is 1-story. It is designed and intended to really, I think, have a 1-story addition put onto it, as opposed to the strict compliance of a minimum of 2-story. So it's not substantial. And the other items, once again, transparency gets a little bit tricky in terms of the substantial nature of it, but I do think that what we're asking for is not substantial based on the actual existing condition. We're duplicating the existing condition that exists on the property now, as well as necessity based on the building that's intended use. Will it have a negative environmental effect? I don't think in any way will this addition have a negative effect of the environmental and physical character of the surrounding properties in the neighborhood in any way. And then, of course, number 5 is this self-created. Obviously, that is a pretty big challenge to suggest it's not self-created, although we do not feel it is self-created, because if this was a vacant lot and we had complete control of all the design directives, we would be much better equipped to be able to meet these criteria. So the fact of the matter that this has an existing building on it, and we really have to respect that existing building and its existing physical characteristics, I don't feel as though it's self-created. And I must remind this board that this is a balancing test. And the idea here is to present a case that the benefits far outweigh the detriment that we would be if these variances were not approved this evening. And I think that based on the presentation that we've made, that we can assure you that the benefits far outweigh any detriments that might occur at this property. So that being said, I'd be willing to answer any questions or further clarify anything more about the project in general or the variances requested. And I do have.
Would you like to speak on?
He'd be more than willing to speak in terms of answering any
Okay.
questions
Okay.
based on the nature of the business.
Great.
And, he definitely knows the business part of it and can insist in that.
Okay, so at this time, I'll ask if there's anyone in the audience who would like to speak in favor or against the variance. Seeing none, I will have the board members see if they have anything to say. Ms. Petrie, do you have anything to ask the applicant?
So what's the transparency on the Main Street side? Do you know that percentage?
Yeah, I think, let me just see here. We have the existing transparency. It's a little bit difficult to determine. The existing transparency, I think, is over 70%, and the proposed addition is approximately 50%. Now, the definition of transparency, and I think you probably know that, but it's a range between 3 and 7 feet. It's not the entire structure. It's not right down to the ground. So it's between 3 and 7 feet. So that's where we're doing our calculations. And I believe that the existing may fall a little bit short, but we actually provide for adequate transparency to meet the 70% on the addition and the vestibule. But I think the rest of it may, well, I don't know if that's factored in total transparency. But what we did is we redesigned this building and we put public offices or docs offices up to the front to allow us to maximize the transparency on the Main Street location of the addition. And the vestibule is a double French door and it's only 8 feet wide.
So, Mr. Palumbo, is that transparency
What-
for the full street side only, variance?
I wish I had a calculation handy.
I mean, in your analysis, is that what that's?
In my analysis, I was just looking at Full Street because I believe
The front
that
was.
Main Street works. What I'd like the applicants to give me before the planning board meeting is a calculation, not of the existing building, but of the vestibule and the addition together.
I can, and I appreciate that. And what I would suggest for the simplicity of this board is we're only asking for a variance for transparency on Full Place.
Okay.
I will assure, if we have to modify the design to meet transparency on Main Street, we're prepared to do that.
Okay, thank you.
If you can, they have to, depending on what happens with the ZBA, they have to finalize their revised plans for the planning board. I need to get those this week so I could do my mailing for the planning board on Monday. I'm asking Dave at this point just to add that calculation in,
No problem.
or if you have to make a change to that front window, you can do that before the planning board.
As suggested, the front
We have time.
portion of our addition which faces Main Street is actually doctor's administrative offices. We can have glass there. We're not asking for a variance for that. We are asking for it for on Full Place.
Anything else?
I don't think so right now.
Okay. Mr. Lemay?
That was my question,
Yeah.
so that answered.
Okay, I got a couple. So there's a lot of mature trees along Full. Are they being touched at all?
They are in the public right of way.
Right.
And we have commissioned or hired an arborist And they have suggested that the project that we are doing, if done properly, we will be able to preserve those trees. And and maybe Dan can even step in and comment on this. There is one that is an ash tree, I think, and the town or village has been putting whatever chemical on it or something, trying to preserve it. It's a little tired, so we're hopeful that it's gonna survive. But the other three, we are willing to work with Ben and DPW, work with our arborist who is on commission with us. And we are doing everything we can to preserve those trees. And we're told that yes, we're gonna fall within the canopy, but they're strong, hardy enough. And if done properly and protected during construction, we should be able to preserve those trees.
So we've talked about the construction of the public realm amenities, and you've agreed to do whatever the planning board comes up with for
We're
that.
gonna come to the planning board with an idea
Right,
and maybe a couple of recommendations and be open to the planning board's suggestion and their expertise on helping us decide what the best amenity is, because the definition of what we're supposed to be providing is a little bit vague.
yes.
Maybe we can even get a little direction from the planning department, and we will definitely follow whatever recommendation that they are suggesting.
Okay, and then that would give you, what is the setback variance that you requesting?
So they are requesting to be back,
13 feet.
yes,
15 feet.
No.
Further than 20.
no, front setback. Yeah, it's
That's
they're, I believe, and I may have been looking at a different plan than the revised plans that you got. I believe they are coming in at 33 feet, so it's a 13 feet
Great.
exceeds. I thought you said 15.
No, that's-
Very good. So the building itself, there's two things that are of concern. Number one is the 15-foot height. Why can't you meet the 15-foot height?
The 15-foot height, right now we're matching the eve heights.
Right.
Okay, and coming up to the 15-foot height, we would actually start coming into and going above the actual eve height of the existing. And we would like to maintain the 15 or the 10-foot height and put the flat roof, it's a flat roof, and we're gonna tie it right into the eve.
Okay, so that leads into my next question. Why can't you put a singular peak roof over both? My personal opinion is the flat roof doesn't look desirable. I mean, it doesn't look village-like. I know there are a lot in the village, but doesn't, in the new criteria, and that leads me to another thing, going to just to step back a bit. The village board decided with the CM district, CMU district, I believe it is, right?
MU.
I'm sorry, MU district. It used to be C all the time. Anyway, MU, to have certain criteria. And so the very first building that came into the village came before us, right out of the bat.
I know.
Right off the bat, they wanted, variances to one-story, this, we don't want that, we need this, we can't do that. And so, trying to make things meet this code, I don't think that the flat roof is desirable as a construction. I mean, I think if you could do a singular peak, it would get rid of the 15 feet, because you could come up to the 15 feet, make the roof 15 feet high, or the existing, or the addition 15 feet high, and then have a singular peaked roof, which would look more desirable, I think. Personally, that's my own personal opinion. I'm just asking why you can't structurally do that.
Yeah, I mean, we have some renderings, I think they're in the packet, they're pretty small, and I do have blown up versions of them. But the flat roof, once again, we're trying to maintain the character of the existing building and not complicate it, not overpower it. And the best way to do that is with that flat roof. In my opinion, establishes the eve line, which is maintained by the existing structure already, and we are maintaining that height. If this addition becomes 15 feet high, and the primary building, the existing building that's there, is 10 foot high, it is gonna overpower the architectural features of the existing building. And become a detriment, in my opinion, because we're not trying to make the addition look like the primary architectural feature. We're trying to make it look like the secondary complementing feature. And
You understand too that our authority is to give you the least variance that we need to give you. We're not
Understood.
looking to give you everything you ask for if we can help it.
Yeah.
So we're trying to look for alternatives to.
Understood. And if the alternative and that you're presenting, I felt was positive, I would be 100% in favor of it. But I guess I disagree with the fact that if we made it 15 feet high, that it would be an enhancement to our project or the building or that corner in any way. I think it would become a very awkward detail of where the existing building starts to get swallowed up by the addition.
And my thought too is that just because it's existing, the thought for the MU district is to bring things up to code, up to their code, the MU code. And by doing that, by putting a peak roof across the entire thing would, in my opinion, personal opinion, not boards, I think that would make it look more village-like.
Well, I think if we brought, so the addition is about,
We don't want, in other words, I don't want to make things look less like the MU codes are kind of looking toward. I don't want to continue to give variances that make it look less like.
right. And believe me, I was very much involved in your first challenge of the MU code and the building at the corner of Rhinewald. I mean, in terms of new construction, very different situation. If we had a new or a vacant lot or a reconstruction where we're demoing a building, we wouldn't be here. Our challenge is to find a reasonable addition. And believe me, we were lucky to design this thing and only come to you with 4 variances. We tried very hard to make it none.
Right.
And as you can see, it's very challenging to do that. And we have spent a lot of time architecturally comparing all the different alternatives. Taking a pitched roof and then blending it on top of this roof, that roof would project probably, I would say, about 7, 8, if not 9 feet taller to the peak. And once again, the existing building would be swallowed up and there would be no identity of that. Very similar to some of the renderings. I just brought the ones for the.
You got that rendering you have? I don't see that.
Yeah, it's on,
The one that you just,
it is,
in the packet.
yeah, I believe it is.
I didn't see it. Yeah, you got
There's
that.
2 different views, one from the front, one from the back.
So on the Main Street side, what's the current width of the building? And how wide is the addition?
The current width of the building is 27 feet wide. And the addition is 20 feet. So we are probably,
So when you talk about not dwarfing the existing building, you're not adding something that's 10% or 20% of the original building. You're looking at, 80% of the original building you're adding onto it.
I don't think it's 80, I think it's 50% of the original building. How it adds up, I think. Because I think this is a 2,000 square foot addition and the existing building is 4,000 square feet, 3,500. So it's not quite that big. But we need to do this addition to meet the program requirements, and we're doing everything we can to be respectful to the existing building.
Rick, can I
Yes.
just want to make one clarification? One alternative that you're talking about is a singular peaked roof over the addition. That would only take care of one of the 2 height-related variances. Because the 2-story,
Oh, yeah, understood.
yeah,
I understand
it
that.
would still be
Yeah, I
only
understand.
1
I
story.
understand.
I think,
Yep, understood. How about, is there a way to take that flat roof and put it as a shed roof somehow, built into the existing?
So, I mean, in terms of just doing it a pitch, I don't think that architecturally that would be correct, and I'm not sure that would negate the variance request for the 15 feet.
No, it wouldn't, and it probably wouldn't. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm just trying to come up with some alternatives to
Yeah,
the look.
I mean, it would be an option. I think architecturally, it would not be more favorable than what we're presenting.
So to put a single peak roof over the entire unit would result in what? Adding 9 feet in height or something? Approximately 7 to 9 feet?
I'm guessing that that would probably be about, about 9 feet in height, and it would change the whole dynamics of the existing building. It would change all the architectural styling, the roof line, everything. And there might be, from a structural standpoint, there might be a requirement to rip the roof off the entire existing building in order to do that. To just extend the peaked roof of a truss roof system, it's not an easy thing to do.
It is truss roof.
I believe it is.
One of the old friendlies, I think almost all of them.
Yeah. It's not designed to just lay a peak roof on top of it. So we're trying to put flat roof and integrate it in as opposed to, kind of peaking up on top.
If you're familiar with the corner of Main and just west of Main and Union, I'm trying to think of the name, Linwood, Main and Linwood, that building was originally all flat, that whole plaza, and they built a peak roof on top of that.
On top of it.
It went right over the flat roof, basically.
Is that where, like,
Yes, that plaza.
Yeah.
It was originally flat roofs.
I know that, yeah.
It's truss, but,
But that was a flat roof.
Yeah.
That was, the entire roof was put over with a new roof. This is a truss roof that we would have to overlay or rebuild a peaked roof on top of it.
possibly take the whole roof off.
I would think that that would probably be what we would have to do.
Okay. Let's see, I think that was it. Yes, okay. Anything else you'd like to present before the board?
No, thank you very much. And once again, if you have any questions while you're delivering, feel free to.
Thank you. All right, anything else the board would like to ask the applicant? No? Okay. Sounds good, thank you. We will have a decision this evening, you're welcome to stick around, okay? Okay, at this time, we'll close the public hearing and then go into our deliberations. It's your pleasure, folks. You want to take them, probably should take them one at a time.
Okay, and that's what I was gonna say, I'll take the easy one.
Okay. All right, the first one is 112-16F2F for the usable stories less than 2. It's supposed to be 2, obviously, and they want to have less than 2.
Well, I wasn't thinking that one was easy.
That wasn't the easy one. It is the first.
No
It's
cheat.
the first one, it's not the
Hold
easy
the line,
one.
let's put it that way. Should close your own mouth. I mean, basically what they've done is the requesting, and then again, we have to look at this as the overall picture. This building is existing, is 1 story. The fact that they're building a second story or second addition to it, to put a second story on it would obviously be out of character. Just by the looks of what you saw there from the renderings. And the object of I think personally, the object of that 2-story building, 3-story buildings is to have a mercantile or retail on the first floor and apartments on the second. And obviously, this isn't that
That's not gonna-
situation.
yeah, It's not gonna work.
It's not that situation, so.
If I could just add one thing,
Yes.
when I provided you my staff analysis report, I did look at the immediately neighboring buildings, which are 1 story, one
Yes,
across the street,
yes.
one next door. And then you get two taller buildings.
Yes, well, the other one, right directly next door is what they met all the criteria, I guess. I don't think they got anything. Okay, so what's your pleasure on that one? Motion to grant the variance for the two-story, less than two-story. I mean, it doesn't matter what we take, it's, you know, which one of these, they're all gonna be integral. As a matter of fact, two of them, the 15 feet and the two-story are probably going to be one without the other.
Right. Well, I'll be honest, yeah, I'll comment on all four of them, at least from my point of view. Mr. Sutton's presentation is appealing, and I think I agree with it in the sense that obviously going 2 stories would be an eyesore. I think I kind of like where you were trying to go with pitch roof for the whole thing, but I think that would probably be overbearing. I'm not a fan either of a flat roof, but I think the renderings made it look at least presentable. My original question too was, what's the transparency in the front? Is, I want to be assured that we were at least 70% there, and it seems like we are. The side street, if we could preserve the 4 trees, I mean, I know they're on the right of way there, but they're fully grown trees, so I'm happy that they're taking measures to try and preserve those.
Do you want to do them all together?
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with voting on the 4 of them all together.
Okay, I have no problem with that.
I mean, I don't know if what you guys feel. I mean, if you're.
No,
I think it makes sense to try that.
Yeah.
And if it passes, if not, somebody can make a different motion.
Right.
I'll
be honest with you, the questions I ask them for, be the devil's advocate. We like to try to make the least amount of variances that we have to grant. And a lot of times they click, sometimes, I know you've probably mulled this over a million times, but sometimes they click, sometimes we don't have to grant you all the variances. But I agree with Mr. Lorraine. I think you've answered all our questions, and the project looks good from the renderings. Yes, it does. It's not like it's going to be an eyesore. That building isn't an eyesore to begin with, but to add to it. And the only question I guess I did have is, would you be able to double up on the windows on the full side? I don't know if that would get you anywhere near the 70%, but I mean with some type of protective so that you're not seeing through them. And I understand the transparency purpose.
Yeah, the challenge with that is the privacy, number one.
Right.
Second of which is every single one of those windows lands in a exam room or an op room. So we start changing the width of the windows, then we're running into walls internally, and it gets very awkward because we've got a wall coming into the middle of a window.
How much are we short on that side?
We're 20% and we're supposed to be 70.
And I agree with what you propose, because, this is not, a retail store. And that's exactly what the purpose of it was, is to see through and bring it out from the street. And this is not that application, so I agree with that. So, if you want to make a motion, then say, that's a good idea.
Well, I'll make the motion to approve the 4 variances put in front of us today. 1, 12, 16F, 2F, 2G, 3C, and 2D.
Okay. Motion by Mr. Lemay, second.
Can we add a condition?
Well, we can do it again. Yeah, if you want to second it, we can talk about a condition, sure. So you second?
second.
Okay. All right, and then on the question, what would you like to add to it? What are you thinking?
Just to make sure that the Main Street is 70% transparency.
Okay,
I can write that into our draft resolution.
The
It
applicant's
has
already,
to be anyway.
yes,
I'm
Otherwise, they'd have
asking
to
them
come back
to,
for another
they
yeah.
need another variance.
I mean, I'll put it in there,
Right.
but it's, I want you to be assured that it needs to be anyway when we get more plans with more dimensions. If it's not, then I have to.
I would like to
throw
find a
a red
condition on there that the trees that are on the west side of the building, proposed addition be maintained as best they can. I mean, I know, but they are very mature trees, and I know they're gonna have some problems with construction, because that building is very close to the sidewalk, which is between the sidewalk and the street.
Yeah.
And, but the canopy is a lot bigger than that.
Yeah, we're
Is that,
planning on trimming up the canopy and trimming it back, but preserving the tree, keeping that building down lower actually, heads us in the right direction of making a better assurance that we're gonna be able to preserve those trees.
So we'll put it in there that he preserves the best.
is that as part of your rationale why the transparency works? Because the trees are there
Yes.
along the
Plus-
landscaping.
Plus the 15-foot height in the roof too, it'll basically cover that. You drive by, you won't see the flat roof.
So in
Yeah, nice trees.
in Gary's draft resolution, there's a suggested condition about a public realm amenities.
Yes, you can continue that too also, yeah, put that into the trees. I mean, it has to be done, but put them in there. That's gonna be up to the plan. Okay, anything else? Ask the clerk to call the roll, please.
Petrie,
Yes.
Lemay,
Yes.
Andrews.
Yes. It's unanimous, and all the variances are granted. Thank you for
Thank
bringing
you so
those.
much. Thank you, appreciate it.
I'll mark this up and get it back to you.
Anything else to be brought before the board? You don't have a meeting next month?
No, but I do think that in the back of your packet, there is the schedule that
Yes.
you can review and
2026. Does anyone have a problem with February? Ash Wednesday?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
Happy
thank you.
holidays.
See you later.
Thank you.
We talked about that last week.
You?
Yeah.
You obviously, you must not have. But does anyone-
I wasn't here. I didn't see
Oh.
I didn't see anything about it, so I wasn't sure. So I just
We
wanted.
talked about it, but I don't know, so no one has a problem with Ash Wednesday then? Okay. Then we'll go for, have a motion to accept the 2026 meeting dates.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Ms. Petrie, second. Mr. Lemay, all in favor? Aye, so carried. Sounds good.
April 15th. I may or may not be.
Okay.
Let's make sure we have another member on this board by then.
Actually, it's not like you have two alternates too, right?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Remember, two alternates. Gary, we're off the record, so. would
No,
you-
you're not. You haven't closed
You're
the meeting
still,
yet.
I thought we just, no, I thought we.
Yeah.
Motion adjourned, motion adjourned.
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Lemay, second by Ms. Petrie, all in favor?
Okay.
Aye.
Oh, that's right. There's a motion.
Yes, Rick, you had a question?
Yes, could you look into that Main and Highland? Something's not right up there, I'm not sure what.